Good afternoon, this is Harassing with yet one more flight report for the online game Birds of Steel, played on the Xbox 360. In this game, I'm revisiting an older plane, the Bf-109E3, or the Emil as it's called, a 1941 German warbird. This, I believe, would be an autumn paint scheme. I kind of like this one. This one was unlocked in the game after 30 online player kills. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know that I'm trying to document getting better in those planes, and this game is a little bit less about that because I've actually unlocked the one skin available for the Emil with the 30 online kills, and this is really more about just going back and enjoying an early war plane. The strengths of these early war planes, especially the Emil compared to the other 109s, is that this plane is a lot more agile. It's a little bit easier to make some sharp turns and to pull some aerial acrobatics. The downside is, compared to most of the other Emil, most of the other 109 planes, is that this is a much less fast plane, so it's more difficult to catch up to some of the late war airplanes. And the ammo, while it has cannons and machine guns, the ammo is very limited, and it's very easy to run out of ammo in this plane. In this game, I set up a match, an online versus match in sim mode, so none of the planes are marked. You can rely on a map in order to find little colored dots to let you know roughly where the enemy planes are. Something equivalent to maybe a radio dispatcher letting you know what zone the enemy planes are in. And then you have to rely on your eyes in order to spot the planes. And I also in this game set up this match as a glitch map. So I believe this is I think this is Berlin map overlaid on top of the Ruhr map. Gives it a fairly interesting setup because there's lots of rivers and streams to make it a neat place. Not so many hills, and the airfields are not too far away from each other, which means you get into the thick of the action fairly thick. I've also noticed that both AI and enemy planes do seem to gather around either of the airfields, making that a little bit more interesting. Here I am trying to spot, looking for any kind of enemy plane I can find. Mostly what I've got at this point are the AI. Looks like a Gladiator there I just took a quick pot shot at, as well as some of the Italian G50s from my own side. There were two players in this game, but I had not spotted them yet. They lined up on the first enemy and blew it apart with the cannons with a very quick, brief blast, getting kill number 1. In this game, for whatever reason, on this map, whatever reason, the enemy planes, actually all the planes, tend to stay fairly low on the map. So while one could climb up and dive down on them, in this time I'm mostly just flying low along with them. I was just trying to enjoy the acrobatic abilities of the Emil. Part of the skill of the Emil, most planes are like this, but the Emil is also to make sure the speed stays above 300 kilometers per hour. And you can find that if you generally you're going to be something close to 350, maybe even 400 if you get lucky. Here's a pair of Gladiators. I let one go by to stick with the second one that was after my own plane. Did a quick burst there. I think I fired a little bit too late, and my speed is a little bit high, so he drifts under me. I thought it would crash. Oh no! I guess I did hit that plane. Somehow, I accidentally got a little bit of a hit on him, and he went down. So that is 2 kills, both of them AI Gladiators. I'm not sure what leads to that glitch of pausing when this game records. I suspect it might have something to do with my internet speed. I'm not enemy Spitfire. So that one probably, not always, but probably is an enemy player. So here I am stalking it, trying to watch how he flies. Very loopy, lots of inverts in order to change directions quickly. And the trick is to stay on him. I drop my nose, lag behind him a little bit in order to gain altitude. There he has risen. Now rather than rise my nose up all the way to get him, I figure he's going to be coming back down. And I take a quick shot as he passes in front of my nose. Probably I should have shot just a little bit sooner, like I tried here, but he goes above my nose. So the trick I think is to shoot a little bit sooner than what I actually am shooting. And now I'm a little slow, but I'm still able to stay on this guy's tail or follow him around anywhere. There he goes, rising up again off to my left, or off to my right, sorry. And a couple quick shots, he rises faster than I do. So I anticipate where he's going to be, reverse, drop my nose, find him again. And a quick shot or two there. hoping to hit him, He stays pretty low, reverses back, so I roll back to the direction and staying above him as best I can, and he winds up hitting the tree. So I do not get credit for that kill, but I'm going to go ahead and take mental credit for that kill because I think he may have been trying to evade me, and so we won't count that for the tally here. That's 2 kills and probably 1 harassment anyway, we'll call that. So now I'm fairly low, 300 feet, 100 meters off the ground. Going to regain altitude just a little bit, try to regain some speed, see if I can't reset for the next set of players. So heading fairly straight, raising altitude a little bit, trying to keep my speed up. Now the problem with the Emil, I think the biggest challenge of the Emil is you cannot look behind you. There's that machine gun shield that rises up behind your head and arcs over the top of your head, and that just makes it way too difficult to see. Now this is the enemy airfield. You can see the flak and the anti-aircraft guns firing at me, and just off to my left there is the Spitfire pilot having taken off again. So I reverse around. I generally don't like to hang around the enemy airfields, but in this case we're so close to each other that it's hard not to be there accidentally sometimes. So following this guy, he jumps right in the action, so I come after him. I did manage to hit his oil tank with that deflection shot, so in a second you're going to see the oil coming out of the back of his plane. As I was saying before, the armor shield behind the cockpit, behind the pilot's chair, makes it very difficult to see anybody behind you. So you've got to really roll your plane in order to get any kind of looks backwards, and it's very easy for enemy planes to sneak up on you. And clearly in this game you can tell I'm not being that concerned. And here I'm anticipating where he's going to be, trying to put a few shots where he's going to land. He's trying to come back to his own airfield. You see he drops his landing gear, and I put a couple machine gun rounds into him. I think my cannon is depleted at that point. Have to rise back up again, and I must have done just a little bit of damage because he gets he crashes there, so that'll be 3 kills. Now you might have just seen I got some serious flak bursts on me, and when I look out my right window here, you'll notice that my left wing has taken some serious damage, and I'm already out of cannon fire at this point in the game. So I decided, with 3 kills under my belt, 1 player and 2 AI, that I'm going to go ahead and head back to my own base and try to land and repair. Attempt to look behind me to see if anybody's following me. Again, you can't look straight back like you can in some of the other planes, like the Russian planes or even the late war Bf-109s. So you're sort of stuck with what you've got there, using the map and sort of my vision to try to spot my own airfields, prepare for coming in. Since I'm kind of low altitude already, I don't need to drop down my altitude, but I thought I would walk you through broadly my landing procedures. The Emil is not a very difficult plane to land at all. It doesn't roll too far compared to some of the other planes. So as I sort of approach my airfield, not from the ideal angle, mind you, I wouldn't do this in most other planes, I immediately drop my throttle down to 0 and my landing gear and my flaps, and then slowly increase the throttle to the point at which I feel like I'm just barely keeping the plane in the air. So typically I drop my throttle all the way down to 0 to bleed some speed, and then try to put it back up again just enough to keep the airplane in the air. Here I am trying to put a controlled landing, and you'll see in a second I'll go to external view here. But this was actually a really nice landing. I managed to put both sets of wheels straight on the ground with no bounce, which is pretty good on my part, I think. Pretty happy about that. A nice external view of the color of the paint scheme. It's not exactly the best color scheme for this map. The light blue and the tan show up fairly well against the trees, but it is a cool different paint scheme. Now I'm not flying there. Since this is an overlay map, sometimes when you do the external views on the replay, it does put the camera underneath the ground and makes the ground invisible. So I was rolling forward, and sometimes I do roll off the end of the airfield, but in this case I did manage to stop in time, so I'll call that a successful landing. I landed. My invisible, magical, instantaneous ground crew repair the plane and refuel and reload the plane, which is great. So you can see my wing is back to being repaired there. But as I mentioned earlier, sometimes enemy planes and enemy AIs will attack your airfield, and so while I'm sitting here you can see a couple shots there, and some plane tries to hit me on the ground and managed to put holes right back in the exact same wing that I just got repaired a second ago. But because I'm sitting here, it doesn't really count as, it won't automatically repair. I believe the plane that was coming after me, you'll be able to see when I get back in the cockpit view, was a Gladiator, and I think it was a player Gladiator who was trying to hit me on the runway and
see if he couldn't kill me. I think he may have done more damage to me than I had realized at the time, because I was kind of stuck. I took a quick burst hoping I could hit him, but I was sort of stuck here, taking off again with a damaged wing, and I believe I had either fuel or some sort of engine damage as well that I had not realized at the time. One of the most difficult things about landing, I think, is actually turning your airplane around again and getting back on the runway. So that's what I'm attempting to do here, is trying to keep my throttle something around 20 to 30%, and often it helps to turn the throttle up and then turn it back down again so you don't wind up going too fast. And I find that as you shut the throttle back down in the middle of a turn with your rudder hit really hard, you can do a pretty good job of turning the plane around fairly quickly. So you can see there's the Gladiator off to the left in the middle of those bursts, moving left to right, and there's one of my AI planes coming after him. The Gladiator is circling around. You can see all the cannon fire on him. I maneuver my plane back onto the runway, and the Gladiator gets brought down, at least. So I suspect, I'm not positive, I suspect that was another player, sort of a fairly novice player that was harassing me on the runway. It could have been an AI, but I don't think they typically shoot you while you're laying on the runway. There is at least one other plane around. You can see my ground crew or ground cannon are firing at him, but I roll the plane forward, put up the flaps, maybe gun the engine a little bit, the WEP, in order to get to the 200 kilometers necessary to take off. This overlay map tends to put a little bit of grass on the very end of the runway, but it isn't usually a problem, because either when you hit it, it launches you up a little bit, or it doesn't seem to impede, doesn't cause you to crash typically, and the Emil has a shorter takeoff range than some of the other planes do. Now, because I was reversing, because there was a plane harassing me, I quickly reversed low energy, so there's not a whole lot I can do, but I'm using at this point the tracer fire from my anti-aircraft guns to spot the plane that was harassing me. You can see it's fairly high up, so I'm not going to be able to really go after it very much, but I can chase after it, hoping that eventually it drops. It's trailing smoke, and it looks like there might be one of my AI on its tail. So here I am. He's doing a broad circle around the airfield, and I'm doing a lower circle, always keeping my nose below him, because if I raise my nose too much, I'm going to wind up stalling out. So I'm keeping my nose just above the horizon. And you can see I'm getting closer and closer, and probably I'm cheating myself a little bit, just trying to get the nose up, hoping for a little bit of a shot if I can get one. But it's looking like he's beginning to turn away from my airfield just a tad, and I don't know that I'm going to be able to get up there in time to reach him. I am traveling fairly slowly, so it's difficult to be able to gain some altitude, because I haven't really had the chance to get my speed up properly and to gain my altitude properly. So you can see distance-wise, he's pulling away from me now. It's going to be harder and harder to catch up to him. The anti-aircraft guns are still shooting at him, still letting me know exactly where he is, but he's getting farther and farther away, and I'm finding it difficult to catch him. So I kind of have to give up on that plane at this point. There's not much else I can do about it as he flies away. I can hope that somebody somewhere else will try to get him. A quick check back around to see if anybody's there, and I go to circle the airfield, or go to turn a little bit to gain some speed. But what I'm finding here is that my speed is dropping faster than it ought to. At this point, it was clear to me that my engine has damage. Either the gasoline spilled out, or the engine is locking up. But I was really losing all the power, and it's probably from those shots I took on the airfield. So at this point, I just decided I was going to try to find a place to land in a field, since I couldn't make it back to my airfield. Looking for an open flat spot that I could roll forward. I've got my flaps and my wings down, or my wheels down, and speed is a little bit higher than what I want, and I'm finding there's a lot of trees in my way, so it's getting kind of difficult to find anywhere safe to put down. Maybe I should have bailed at this point, but I rolled the plane around, hoping to get a little bit of something in order to try to put a safe landing somewhere, but the plane has just got no energy whatsoever, and in this forested region, it's really difficult to find anywhere a straight line where you can put the plane down. There's a little alley there that I'm going to try to go for. The plane is going down. My speed is fairly high. I'm trying to keep my nose up as long as possible in order to slow down. Passing some houses, and really not much else in front of me that I can get to. I'm beginning to scrape the tops of some trees with my wings at this point. I might have even at this time been attempting to reach my airfield, but it's looking like not much else I'm going to be able to do. That is my airfield up ahead of me, up that little hill. So I put my wheels down, dig my propeller into the ground, flip and roll the plane. So now I just got to sit there and burn to death as I wait to respawn. So that's 3 kills in a landing before I wound up with my first death, and it was definitely a player-caused death, but it was a player-caused death who hit me on the runway and caused damage to my plane. So I don't think he got credit for that kill, because I flew around for a long time after he shot at me. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that my pilot did not make it out of that mess. I have a feeling that he was roasted and cooked. But fortunately, it's a video game, so I respawn in my brand new shiny undamaged wing 109 Emil, and can take off from the runway again, looking to get some revenge. So far, 2 AI kills, 1 player kill, and 1 death. There's a nice front shot of the Emil as it's rolling down the runway, picking up some speed, taking off at the end, and the wheels go up right away. I like the sound of the flyby there. And circling and heading towards the enemy part of the airfield, checking the maps to see if there are any enemy planes anywhere coming nearby. Sorry for the little reflections on the glass. The only time I had a chance to record this video was during the day, not the ideal time for using my iPad to record the video, but it's better than nothing. Now there is a bomber heading straight for my airfield, so I try to put a few shots in his way, hoping to make him fly through. And I think I did not a bad job, because you can see that there is already some smoke pouring out, oil from one of his wing damage. I get a pretty good lineup and immediately flame one of his engines, hit his body, and the pilot started pouring out of there. But just to make sure, I put a few more shots in it, causing smoke from even more places, and finish him off with a couple more bursts. So that would be before he reached my airfield. So that would now be 2 AI kills, 2 player kills, for a total of 4 kills this game, and 1 death. Not too bad for me. Now we turn and head back towards the enemy air bases. I do enjoy seeing all the little flames, the burning wreckage of all the airplanes staying on the ground, the residual damage. And so I'll head back over those guys, keeping an eye out for what's around me, checking the map to see where the enemy planes are. And at this point, most of the action seemed like it was over top of the enemy base, so I was headed directly back that way. You can see I'm already there within visual range of the enemy base, and you can see that a number of the planes, you can see the flak behind there and a couple dots moving from the right to the left, some of which are, I think there were at least 2 enemy planes there. So I'm headed back that direction to see what sort of damage and threats I can do. There is an enemy plane on the airstrip getting ready to take off, but I don't like to shoot those guys, so I'll leave him alone. And I will head back up to the skies. I'm flying through some flak myself, same kind of flak that caused me damage last time. And turning with these guys, I spot down below me an enemy plane. At least I did spot, maybe it hasn't quite spotted it yet. Roll, dip my nose. You can see down there, just over the river, there is an enemy plane which I'm putting my attentions on, and it looks to me like it is the square ends to the wings, so it's either going to be a late war Spitfire or a Mustang, and that appears to be a Mustang right there. So I've got an after or on the tail of a Mustang in British colors. A quick shot there. It wasn't clear to me whether or not I had done any damage, and he rolls back in front of me. And again, I put some hits on him. Roll backwards to see if I can see where he went, and he is now dropping close or low over his own airstrip, and he rolls over and hits the ground. So the Mustang there gets damaged. So that is another player kill. 3 player kills and 2 AI kills this game for 5 is not too bad. You can see the AI shooting at me, and that ends the game.